You are listening to the EPT Works Listen, Love, Give podcast. Hi, I'm Dr. Annette Cargioli, the Forgiveness Doctor. I'm here to help you create phenomenal health, happiness, and new life with energy, intuition, and forgiveness. In a world where emotional health is often treated with mind-altering drugs or years of talk therapy, it's time for more compassionate, imaginative initiatives in emotional health care. EPT is short for Emotional Polarity Technique, an innovative holistic emotional therapy that will change your life and health for good. You can learn more about Emotional Polarity Technique through my new book, The Forgiveness Doctor, available on Amazon.com. You can subscribe to this podcast, get free EPT training at EPTworks.com, and like us on Facebook. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 60, titled, Here's a Quick Way to Know Your Hidden Limiting Beliefs. In this episode, you're going to learn how to identify your own hidden beliefs and why this is helpful to your life, and, of course, how to use forgiveness to transform those beliefs and yourself into something that actually makes your life much better than you ever deserved. Your beliefs operate to limit your perception of reality. You can only see or notice what you believe in. If you don't believe in the miraculous, you are not likely to see a miracle. Or if you do see a miracle, you will not believe it really happened, and you will explain it away. If you believe that most people think that alternative health care is a waste of time and money, you will naturally attract more of those people. If you believe you can't pay taxes and personal bills, you will have a hard time making enough money to pay both. By figuring out your hidden limiting beliefs, you can transform them and yourself with forgiveness and open up to new life experiences you have never known. So are you ready to broaden your perception of reality and see more of your dreams come true? Awesome! First, make a list of your significant life traumas. Include your parents' traumas on this list. Here are some examples of significant life traumas. A really bad car accident. And maybe not even one where somebody died or got hurt, but it was just horrendous. You almost got killed, but you walked away. That could be a really bad car accident. Of course, the ones where people die and get hurt and go in the hospital for months, those are obviously going to be on the list. An accident where you or someone you love was hurt or killed. Now, I'm talking about accidents that don't necessarily involve a car, but things that happen that are just horrible. A lot of families have these stories. Another significant trauma would be a separation from a significant family member who may have been sick or in the hospital and couldn't care for you. So this would be a childhood memory. Or possibly when you separated, you were in the hospital and you had to be separated from family. Another significant trauma would be a family loss of possessions, like in a fire, like the whole house burns down, or a storm that wipes everything out. Another one would be a loss of a romantic interest to another person. So this would be a trauma where you are in love and you are blindsided by the fact that you find out the person you love is actually in love with someone else. Another trauma would be a divorce in your family, in your birth family. Even in your parents' family, their parents divorcing could still be traumatizing you and the whole family, or divorce that you go through personally. Abandonment of someone you love. So this is, someone who you dearly love who just deletes you from their life. So they totally abandon you, and with no reason, no cause, they just don't want to have anything to do with you anymore, or they just go up missing. Moving from a house or location that you really loved. A lot of times this is a childhood memory, but it can also happen in your adulthood where you are very attached to the house or location where you live, and you have to move, and it's hugely traumatic to do that. Another one is loss of money. That would be family bankruptcy. Or I've had people who actually had thousands of dollars stolen from their house by people they knew and couldn't prove it. So loss of money is a huge trauma. Loss of friendship. Again, these are, where you had a really great friendship going on and something happens that you two get in conflict, and then you never resolve the conflict. And on top of it, it causes the loss of something that was really beautiful at one time. Loss of integrity. That would be where possibly you're falsely accused and people in the community, there's a humiliation. People think that you're a bad person. But you could have a parent who went to jail and you feel a loss of integrity and how you're viewed by the public or by other family members. Loss of church membership. This is a big one for a lot of people, and they don't really want to call it a trauma, but it deeply affects them when a church community who are supposed to love them cut them out or disintegrate or have fights inside. Possibly the church itself is fighting and you're not a part of it, but it's devastating because these people are all people you love. So you get the idea of what kind of traumas you want to look for. Now, pick one trauma on your list and ask yourself, in this trauma, what did I choose to believe that is true in the trauma that isn't necessarily true for my life now? So let me say that again. So ask yourself, you pick one trauma and you ask yourself, in this trauma, what did I choose to believe is true in the trauma that isn't necessarily true for my life right now? So, for example, if your dad abused your mom, you may have decided in that trauma to believe that all men hurt women, or that women deserve to be hurt, or that love relationships aren't good for you or anyone. So did you get that? So we'll say the trauma is you saw your dad beating up your mom when you were 5 years old. And in that trauma, you decided to believe that men hurt women, or you decided to believe women deserve to be hurt, or that love relationships aren't good for you or anybody. Those could be some things you decided to believe that really don't serve your life anymore. Now, if your parents fought about money all the time, you may have decided to believe that money is bad because it caused strife and instability in your family. If you went through a disaster that caused your family to lose all their possessions, you may believe life is too hard, or God hates me, or the world is a dangerous place, or you may believe it's better to have nothing so you won't ever lose anything and go through that awful pain of the disaster where your family lost everything ever again. If you went through a bitter divorce, you may have decided no one will ever love or want me again. Or you could have decided my life will never be happy again, or love is bad. If you went through a hurtful, traumatic experience in a church, you may have decided to believe all churches are bad, God is bad, or good people can't be trusted. Those are just a few examples to give you the idea of what you're doing. So write down all the things you decided to believe, all the limiting beliefs that came out of your traumas. Trauma and pain are unavoidable in life. It's the beliefs you create out of the trauma, the meaning that you give it, that causes unnecessary suffering in your life. You can't keep someone from breaking your heart. You only have power over the meaning you decide to give that trauma in your life. You can decide to let unavoidable trauma steal your belief in love, hope, and joy, or you can decide to hold on to your belief in God who loves you and is conspiring to make your life better all the time. I'm going to say that one again. You have the power to decide to let unavoidable trauma steal your belief in love, hope, or joy. Or you can decide to hold on to a belief in a God who loves you and is conspiring to make your life better every minute of every day. Your choice to believe in darkness or light is the greatest power you have in any situation in life. And the choice you make will directly determine how easy or how difficult your life will be. The limiting beliefs you have written down are the result of you choosing to believe more in the darkness than the light. Now it's time to release all these negative limiting beliefs that have increased your suffering we're going to release it with forgiveness. Forgiveness is the greatest tool you have to release all the unnecessary suffering in your life. Start by building a forgiveness statement with each limiting belief you discovered and hopefully wrote down. Or if you haven't written them down now, you'll do it after this recording is over. It will go like this. I forgive myself for believing, and then you put your limiting belief behind that. For example, I forgive myself for believing the world is a dangerous place. I forgive myself for believing all men beat women. Now, place the palm of your hand over your heart and use your thumb and middle finger to gently rub just under your collarbones, one on either side. So you're going to take your hand, either hand, whatever one's comfortable, put the palm of it over your heart. Your fingers will be more pointing headward, and take your thumb under a collarbone where it's at, and your middle finger, or you can use more than one finger. It's just whatever's comfortable. You use your fingers under the other collarbone, and you gently rub these points. These are fear release points that we use in EPT. And you're going to rub these points because it's going to help settle your body while you start to dig into some of these beliefs that your brain has decided serve you and help you to belong to your tribe and help you to be a better person. You're going to let these go because they don't serve you anymore. And when they were born out of that trauma, they really they were coming from a lens that was limited, that didn't open you up to what God really wants for your life. So say your forgiveness statement out loud while you gently rub your collarbone points. Take a big breath in and let it out, following each statement. Here's another one. I forgive myself for believing money is bad. And then breathe in and breathe out, and you rub these points. If you feel resistance, because there's times when you'll start to do this, you may sit there and you've got your list and you're all by yourself doing this, which actually it's one way to do it, but it's not the best way because we're really made to be with other people. However, if you're doing this by yourself, it's kind of like you're going to kind of take it for a ride. You may hit statements that you feel resistance to saying, that you really think, I do believe that men are terrible people who hate women. And so if you try to say, I forgive myself for believing that all men are terrible people who hate women, you're going to feel a knot in your stomach. You're going to feel some resistance in your body because somewhere in the past, you really took this on, or you carried it forward out of loyalty to people in your family who believed this lie. So if you feel the resistance, there are forgiveness statements you can say. You can use the forgiveness statements to help break the resistance. So here are some of those statements. I forgive myself for believing letting go of this belief is not good for me. And then breathe really deeply. I forgive myself for believing I can't let go of this with forgiveness. And then breathe. Yeah. I forgive myself for believing forgiveness is too hard for me. And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing my loyalty to this limiting belief is more important than loving my life and allowing God to make my life better. And then breathe. So there's just some examples of how you can break through resistance. You know, resistance shows up because you start, sometimes it's a loyalty thing where the whole family has decided that this limiting belief is what bonds them together. This belief that is not at all born out of God and love and light is what bonds them together. And there is a little bit of a resistance or a fear when you say, you know what, I can just forgive myself for holding on to this limiting belief that generations have loved and clutched in our family. And that's where that resistance comes up, because it's you kind of stepping out of the model of conformity in your family as being the source of how you belong and stepping into a transcendence and transformation into, a spirit-led life where God is calling the shots and God is creating this amazing outcome in your life. Now, go through your list of limiting beliefs and use forgiveness as a tool of transformation that lifts you out of your small world of conformity to all the rules that your family said you had to follow. Because you know what? Conformity is very limiting. You may follow a rule that your family had that was a good rule, but you've got to do it out of the openness of love and connection to divine within you, and not out of just conforming yourself into a space that somebody else built for you to shove yourself into. So that's what I mean. You can stop conforming your life to tribal rules as your way to find a feeling of belonging that you're longing for. You can begin to fully realize that you do belong. You have always belonged because of this divine love that made you and sustains you. As you align with forgiveness, you transcend what the world says is possible. You begin to know and love the divine that exists within you, and you are free to invite more of that divine love into your life. You see that divine love existing in others, and in this way, you know you belong and have always belonged, and so have they. EPT practitioners are trained to help you uncover the hidden memories in your life that have defined all the limiting beliefs that no longer serve your life. An EPT practitioner will then walk you through all the forgiveness you need to transform your life and mind in positive ways to support greater happiness, love, and success in your life. This is not where you thought you were going. It's so much better. May you find peace with your past and the hurt and trauma you have experienced. May you feel safe opening your heart to the divine love that created you and exists right now within you. May you come to realize that you belong out of the energy of divine love that connects us all. Thanks for listening. You can learn more about emotional polarity technique through my book, The Forgiveness Doctor, available at Amazon.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like us on Facebook, and go get your free EPT training at EPTworks.com. I'm Dr. Annette Cargioli, the Forgiveness Doctor, sharing with you a more imaginative initiative in emotional healthcare. Until next time, listen, love, give. EPT works.